Good evening. It's Joyful Hermit, and I was going to share with you a little bit about my finding out how I had a guardian angel. This was at the end of probably my first year of being a Catholic in the fall of 1996. But all that first year, I kept hearing, especially an older woman in the parish I was in my hometown, about her guardian angel. And she had a name for her guardian angel, and she'd say her guardian angel did this, her guardian angel did that. The woman was older, lived alone. So like me now. and I just thought, oh, this is a little much. As a Protestant, I really didn't know about angels. Now, I know that since then they've become quite in vogue. Angels have. But she would talk, gave her guardian angel a name, and I said, how do you know that's its name? And she goes, oh, I named it. And that was sort of a red flag. I thought, that's a bit much. It's pushing it. Even though I was very aware of unusual situations because I'd lived with them most of my life myself. But this was totally new and different. And then the secretary of the parish was a lovely woman, and her husband was at home in a wheelchair. He had MS plus diabetes. I think he'd had part of a leg amputated at that point. And I would visit him every now and then. He had been a writer. Had been an editor for a Catholic publication. Very interesting man. But he talked about his angel. And his angel's name was Angus. And one time he would told me a couple of rather miraculous stories about Angus, how Angus had helped him when he was there alone, his wife working, even in simple things like to reach a video that had slipped behind their entertainment center that he couldn't reach, and another time helped him get up a couple of stairs. They had a two-story home. So I said, well, how do you know that's Angus, and that the name is Angus? And he said, well, he just knew it somehow, just knew it. But I tended to trust Bob a little more. I mean, anyway, he approached it a little different. Men tend to. I hope I haven't freaked out any of you with my rendition of experiences. But, men can tend to be really calm and whatever. A lot of times women, and in history too, in the church, women, there are far more hysterics, mystical hysterics, than in men. So anyway, that fall I had been making little breads and cookies and things to give away, sort of a little ministry, keep myself occupied with something positive. My son was the only one at home. My daughters had gone back to college, and he had gone off to school. I just had 2 plates of chocolate chip cookies on paper plates that were left from a batch I had made, and I'd wrapped them with saran wrap, plastic wrap, and just had said, Lord, who do you want me to give these last 2 plates to? And then I was putting something away in a drawer under my oven, a big drawer that I kept Tupperware and plastic items in. And it was a rainy day. My back was killing me, as it is today. And I couldn't get the drawer. The drawer was half out and half in. I could not budge it. I could not budge it. And I'd paid a lot for these cabinets to be made when I had the home built. And I stood at the kitchen window. I started to cry in frustration, because also I didn't have any spare cash, and I knew to get it fixed I was going to have to call the man who did the cabinets and probably pay to have it repaired. And I thought of Bob, I thought of this woman and their angels, and I just called out loud. I said, Lord, if I have a guardian angel, then for pity's sakes help me. And I got a little grip on myself. I decided I'd call the cabinet maker. So I did, and he wasn't there. I left a message. I thought, well, this is easy going to be $50 that I don't well have to spend. I was having to put my daughters through college. They had loans, but I also had to. My ex-husband never paid a cent toward their college. Our divorce had been in a state where the man doesn't have to after age 18, and he didn't. So there I was on my disability handling that, and the finances were getting tight. So we had a dog, a beagle, Cheerio, and he was in a kennel out on the back side of the garage. And you had to go around the garage and past Cheerio's kennel to get to the little service door that would lead to the only door coming into the house off the garage. And Cheerio was a good little watchdog. He would bark at anything out there. In fact, the neighbors sort of complained at him howling and barking at times. And I didn't hear, Cheerio had not barked or anything. I was still in the kitchen, tidying up. But there was a knock at the inside door that somebody would have had to have gotten into the garage to knock at that door off my little laundry area. And I sort of panicked. Like, who could this be? How did anyone get in that service door and around the dog? And I went to the door and I just sensed an eeriness. And I sort of opened it just a little and said, "Who is it?" And a man said, "You called?" And he looked over where I had the door cracked, and it was an elderly man. And I opened the door more. This was a nice little, safe little town at the time. And there were two men standing there, two older men, and they both had white overalls on, white t-shirts. And they said again, "You called?" And I said, "No, what?" And they said, "Well, we got a call about 10 minutes ago that your garage door was broken." And I said, "Well, my garage door isn't broken. I didn't call anybody about that." And they said, "Well, we got this phone call and we were sent here." So I pushed my little garage electric button. The garage door went up just fine, and out in the driveway was their van, a little white van. It said "garage door repair." And I looked at the men again, and I said, "Well, no." I said, And so they sort of scratched their heads and turned and started to walk off. They weren't very tall men, maybe 5'8", 5'10" at the most. And I said, "But wait. I said, "It's not my garage door. It's my drawer. My drawer's broken." I said, "Out of the kindness of your hearts," I said, "I have a terrible back and it's really hurting today. Could you at least come in and just pull this drawer out for me until I can get a hold of the man who built my cabinets?" And so they looked at one another and sort of shrugged and said, "Well, I guess so." So they came in, and as they were talking, they said, "Well," and one of them pulled out the little service pad, and he said, "Well, this is," and they gave my name. But they had the first name wrong. They called me Beth. But had my last name right. They had the address right. They had the phone number. And they said, "This is strange." And I said, "Well, yes, it is." And but they got down on the floor, and they totally dismantled the drawer, repaired it, and put it back together. They spent about an hour there. And as they were leaving, we talked about prayer. I talked to them about those things. And it was just all surreal. And I said, "Well, can I pay you? Can I pay you?" I said, "This is worth at least $50. That's what I figured it would cost me." And they, "Oh, no. We're not taking any money for this." And I happened to look at the counter, and there were those 2 plates of cookies. And I said, "Well, would you like these cookies?" And oh, yes, yes, they were like two little schoolboys. So they each took their little plates of cookies and their little white overalls, and out the back door they went, opened the garage door again, and out they went to their van and drove off. And already, while they were down on the floor fixing that drawer, put it all back together, it never was a problem after that. I was so like just, whoa. And I went back and got into bed and just had to think through, because it was, even when they showed me their service pad with Beth and then my last name on it and my address and the date of the call, that morning I had not called them. And the man that I had called, totally different, totally, not at all garage door repair. The man who built my cabinets was a man who worked out of his home, and I knew him personally, So I was lying there in bed, and I realized they were telling me I had a guardian angel. Oh, did I have a guardian angel? And all of a sudden it hit me. My guardian angel's name was Beth. And that was not a name I would have ever chosen for a guardian angel. In fact, I have a daughter, Elizabeth, but we never called her Beth. And then I thought, what does Beth mean? What does Beth mean? There had to be something to this. So I called this professor at the Bible college who I knew, who knew Hebrew. And I asked him, I said, what does Beth mean? And he said, well, it's a masculine noun, and it means house. And peace on this house. And he talked about Bethel in the Old Testament, that surely God is in this place. That's what that meant. And I was like, oh my goodness. Because also when these people would call their angels by names, and I had understood that angels didn't have a masculine or a feminine. And that again was like, oh my, the Lord was letting me know, definitely, because the name in English would definitely be a female's name. In Hebrew, it's a masculine noun, and basically then, it was meaning like, wasn't male or female. That was my angel, and I've called upon my angel many, many times, and I have neglected my angel lately. I've started recently again being more thankful to my angel, and I need to be more grateful, especially in these last 3 weeks with my neck injury and how sick I've been, and even the night that I started to faint in the kitchen and had to get down on the kitchen floor trying to get an ice pack. My angel's with me all the time. And I wrote up this story in a little better way than I have told it to you. And it got published in Guideposts magazine. They edited it down quite a bit. But Beth has helped me do incredible things, actually, considering I'm a woman with a bad back. I have extravagant gardens here that I, by the grace of God and the help of my angel, have kept up. I had to move from my lovely home in a small town to a old fixer-upper home because of my financial situation at the time, trying to help my kids with college. And I was able to amazingly do all kinds of work in that house, refurbishing it on my own. So, and even before my mother passed away, she had read that Guidepost article. She didn't often read things that I had published. They were Catholic. But she told me that she knew she had an angel. She'd had a dream and told me about it. And she said, my angel's name is Phyllis. She said, look it up for me, what it means. And Phyllis meant friend. So my mother was very sure and had several dreams then before she died in which her angel appeared to her, Phyllis. So, anyway, we do have guardian angels. I know that. I'm sorry. Both of these people who had told me about their angels are deceased now. And I, of course, did call Bob when he was still alive and told him, I'm sorry I ever doubted guardian angels. So I hope you've enjoyed this story. It's true. God blesses real presence in you, and ask the Lord to introduce you to your angel if you haven't already.